Okay, let's unpack this. You know how cultural trends ebb and flow, right? Constantly reflecting and shaping our society.
Definitely.
Well, nowhere is that clearer than in the wild, sometimes bewildering world of advertising.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a real-time mirror.
Exactly. And we're talking about a recent, pretty dramatic shift in how brands try to grab our attention and, our wallets.
A big shift.
And what that reveals about us, the consumers, and about corporate strategy, too. A really fascinating case study. Feels like a big pendulum swing in how brands try to make us buy things.
Yeah, a definite swing back, it seems.
So today, we're diving deep into some very recent advertising moves. We're focusing particularly on one prominent celebrity campaign that, well, it really seems to have turned the tide.
That's what everyone's talking about.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear.
Yeah.
We want to understand why brands initially pivoted so hard away from traditional ads. Why that strategy, which seems so, well-intentioned.
Yeah.
Why it didn't always work out.
Yeah, the results were surprising for many.
And why they now seem to be making this strong return to older, much more direct, maybe less complicated methods. It's a journey, really. From these abstract ideals back to the maybe brutally blunt realities of the market.
Back to basics, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So, cast your mind back just a few years. Wasn't that long ago, right?
It feels like yesterday, almost.
Marketing departments everywhere, almost overnight, started feeling less like, creative shops thinking up jingles.
Right.
And more like sociology think tanks, deeply concerned with social issues.
Very much so. The discourse changed completely.
They weren't just selling products, they were trying to sell something bigger, something with perceived moral weight. The strategy was explicit. Brands weren't just pushing goods, they were actively, as our sources put it, selling wokeness by the yard.
What's truly fascinating here is just how pervasive that was, and how fast it happened across so many different industries. You saw it everywhere.
Like where specifically?
Well, take beer ads. Suddenly you stop seeing those classic, beer-bellied dudes high-fiving after a touchdown.
That vanished.
That whole vibe just evaporated. Ads started focusing on inclusivity or maybe environmental stuff, almost anything but just enjoying a beer.
Yeah.
Lingerie ads, famously, they fired their angels. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, the supermodels. Gone.
Replace them with this new look, pastel mood lighting and real people, trying to signal authenticity, broader representation.
Right. A totally different feel.
Even denim companies, traditionally focused on fit, style, suddenly they're announcing they're here not for your thighs, but for your truth.
Wow, okay.
Suggesting this deeper personal connection. The underlying intention, if we connect this to the bigger picture, was all tied up with those huge cultural conversations around representation, social justice.
Trying to align the brand with progressive values.
Exactly. Tapping into this perceived desire from consumers for brands to take a stand, be more than just, sellers of stuff.
Right. It was all about that perceived higher purpose. Creating a connection beyond just, here's money, give me the product.
Yeah. Partnership in progress.
Aiming to be seen as partners in cultural progress, not just businesses.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me and for you listening in.
Okay.
What actually happened? When brands went all in on this path, did it actually work? Did all this deep philosophical marketing move the needle on sales?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And beyond sales figures, what did it teach brands about online buzz versus actual shopping behavior? Was it bad execution or maybe just misunderstanding what really makes people buy?
Well, that's crucial. And the data showed a pretty stark, often painful commercial reality.
No.
The result, quite simply, was that everyone clapped on Twitter and then promptly bought nothing.
Ouch, blunt.
Very blunt. But it exposed this huge disconnect.
Right.
We saw very concrete examples of commercial failure. Budweiser sales dropped, Victoria's Secret tanked, just to name a couple.
Significant examples.
The core problem became glaringly obvious. Online likes and shares. Well, they often come from wanting to express an identity, right? It's social currency.
Okay, yeah.
But that didn't necessarily translate into buying decisions. That's commercial currency. A person might praise a brand's ad online, feel good about it.
Their online stance, yeah.
But when it came to actually shopping, their choice was still driven by product, price, convenience, or just simple personal desire, not always the social message.
So the values didn't drive the purchase.
Not reliably. The source puts it so well. Hashtags are free, bras are not.
Huh. Sure.
It wasn't just a marketing mistake. It was like a fundamental miscalculation of consumer psychology. The same online warriors demanding representation, celebrating these ads. They weren't exactly storming shopping malls with their debit cards.
Right. The engagement was loud, but the cash registers weren't ringing as much.
Precisely. A big gap between that performative online stuff and the reality of the shopping cart.
Absolutely. A brutal lesson in social versus actual currency. People might appreciate the stands, but their wallets often vote differently. So if selling wokeness didn't boost sales, even led to downturns, what happened next?
Well, things had to change, didn't they?
How did brands react to falling profits in this vocal but maybe not buying audience? What was the next move? Well, enter Sydney Sweeney in a pair of jeans.
Ah, yes.
The campaign, a campaign so simple, so stripped back, it felt like, I don't know, caveman marketing, as the source puts it. Attractive woman, denim, camera done.
Back to absolute basics.
It cut through all the noise.
Wow.
And remarkably, it seemed to work, which leads to the big question, why? Why did this simple, almost primitive approach resonate so powerfully when the complex, value-driven campaigns failed so visibly?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really just reasserts that old saying.
Let me guess.
Despite a decade of brands pretending otherwise, the ancient proverb lives on. Sex sells.
There it is.
It's not just a catchy phrase. It's, a fundamental insight into human psychology that brands rediscovered or maybe just finally admitted again.
So, after trying to appeal to our higher ideals,
Many realize that a huge chunk of consumers are still primarily motivated by more primal, self-focused desires. It's an axiom for a reason. It taps into universal human things like aspiration, attraction, wanting to feel good about yourself.
just direct.
Very direct. It doesn't whisper. It doesn't nudge. It sells harder than a used car salesman at the end of the month, right? Because it bypasses the intellectual stuff and goes straight for the gut.
Yeah,
And it's not always about crude stuff, but the promise of making you more appealing, more confident.
the aspiration.
Exactly. The Sweeney campaign wasn't just about overt sexiness. It was about aspiring to that effortless appeal. The idea that these jeans will make me look good or feel good.
Or get you closer to her
Yeah.
vibe.
Her vibe, her look, her jeans, in both senses. It speaks to feeling good, physical appeal, maybe more than aligning with a brand's philosophy. Turns out customers often just want to look hot, drink beer without guilt, and occasionally believe that buying a pair of pants might get them closer to Sydney Sweeney's. Well, jeans.
And when you put it like that, it makes a certain kind of instinctive sense. People buy for themselves, for perceived benefits, often very instinctively. But boy, it kicked up a storm, didn't it? When this simplified approach started showing up again, especially with Sweeney, the internet, of course, went feral.
Oh, yeah. Instantly.
An immediate, intense, very polarized reaction online. Why do you think that campaign, that visible shift back, sparked such a visceral debate?
That's fascinating because it really throws that ongoing tension between different cultural viewpoints into sharp relief, doesn't it? Especially online.
How so?
You had like half the crowd outraged that Sydney's jeans commercial dared to reference her jeans, as in her absurdly symmetrical bone structure. They saw it as a step backwards,
A regression.
undermining progress on body positivity, diversity, less objectification. They saw it as harmful, setting things back.
Okay, that's one side.
Then the other half furiously argued that this was a victory for common sense, a refreshing honesty, acknowledging what actually resonates with lots of people.
Pragmatism over preachiness.
Something like that. A rejection of what they maybe saw as preachy or inauthentic branding. It was a full-on cultural battle in the comments, a proxy war over values. Shows how invested people are in these messages now.
Yeah, not just as consumers, but as, citizens invested in cultural direction. So it wasn't just about the jeans, but what the ad represented.
Absolutely. Symbolism is huge.
It's clear the online talk is passionate, but did brands expect that level of backlash? Or were they surprised by the intensity, especially after trying so hard before to be sensitive?
That's the million-dollar intersection again, isn't it?
And how much does that online fury really influence boardroom decisions when you're looking at actual sales figures?
Well, those loud, emotional social media reactions ultimately clashed with the practical realities corporations face. Businesses run on economics, not just sentiment.
Right. The bottom line.
Corporations have bills to pay, and being nice doesn't cover rent. Sales do. PR matters, sure, but the bottom line is king.
So the money talks loudest.
It seems so. The source material suggests the financial need to reverse falling sales and show profit ultimately trumped appeasing a vocal online group. They probably expected some noise, but the business imperative was undeniable. So when given the choice between, as the source says, selling dignity and selling denim in Sydney, the answer, well, it becomes pretty obvious for a business driven by shareholder value.
Brutally obvious, perhaps.
It's not about totally ignoring social concerns, maybe, but prioritizing the core business when other strategies just weren't working.
So what does this all mean? For us, the consumer, for the ad industry going forward?
Where do we land after all this?
It feels like we've come full circle. The pendulum swung, the hashtags aged poorly, and capitalism did what it always does. It went back to basics.
Seems that way.
It's a powerful reminder. Cultural conversations, values, they're important, and brands try to engage. But at the end of the day, for businesses, sales are the ultimate metric. Undeniable. The core insight here, Sydney Sweeney didn't just wear jeans. She, intentionally or not, single-handedly resurrected Madison Avenue's oldest religion. Thou shalt not bore customers. Thou shalt sell sex.
It's a raw truth about advertising, isn't it? That sometimes the simplest, most fundamental appeals just work best.
Yeah. Hard to ignore.
But what's truly insightful now is thinking about whether this is just a temporary fix, a quick correction to boost sales. Or does it signal a longer-term recalibration of advertising's role and the strategies we'll see ahead?
That's the big question.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with this. How will brands try to balance social responsibility with their need for sales targets in this constantly shifting culture?
A tricky balance.
And what does this whole recent pivot tell us? Not just about marketing, but about our own deep-down consumer desires and the lasting power of straightforward, maybe even primal messaging when it comes to actually making us buy things.
Exactly. Something to chew on. So next time you see an ad beer, clothes, whatever, take a second. Look closely.
Yeah, what's it aiming for?
Is it aiming for your intellect, your values, or something more, fundamental, more primal? And what does its success or failure tell you about the world we're in, and maybe even about our own motivations?
Food for thought.
Definitely. Thanks for diving deep with us today.